A billionaire disguised himself as a worker, just to find out if a woman could love him without his money. But when she discovered the truth, she looked him in the eye and said, "You didn't test my heart. You took away my choice." And that one sentence hit harder than anything money had ever protected him from. Because in a city like Atlanta, money could buy almost everything. A glass mansion in Buckhead, black cars, private chefs, exclusive rooms, silent elevators. Even the kind of peace that only rich people can afford. But there was one thing Malik Carter could never buy: the truth. At 34, Malik was everything the city admired. Young, brilliant, self-made, powerful enough to move markets without raising his voice. His company built software that helped move goods across half the country. Investors called him a genius. The media called him Atlanta's quiet visionary. But success had taught him something ugly. Around money, nothing came clean. Every smile wanted something. Every compliment carried a hidden request. Every relationship had numbers behind it. And every time someone said love, Malik listened for the price. Still, somehow, he believed Simone was different. That fantasy died on a rainy Thursday night. She stood in his penthouse with the skyline glowing behind her, one hand on her designer bag, already halfway out the door. "You still don't get it, do you?" she said. Malik stared at her. "Then say it." Simone laughed. Cold, sharp, cruel. "I liked your life, Malik. The cars, the trips, the access, the luxury. You were part of the package." He swallowed hard. "And when you said you loved me?" She didn't even hesitate. "I loved what came with you." The room went quiet. Just rain against the glass. Before we begin, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Then she stepped closer and delivered the line that stayed with him long after she was gone. "Men like you don't get loved, Malik. Men like you get chosen." And then she walked out. No apology, no tears, no last look. Just the sound of her heels fading into the hall. Malik stood there alone in a home that suddenly felt too big, too expensive, and completely empty. He didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark, still wearing his suit, staring at the city like it owed him an answer. By sunrise, one question was burning through him. If he stripped away the money, would there be anything left to love? That same morning, while scrolling through local community pages, he found a short video filmed on a shaky phone camera. It showed an old arts center in Atlanta's West End. Worn brick, faded paint. A building that looked tired, but refused to die. Kids were walking in with drum cases, paint folders, and music stands. And standing near the front door was a woman named Naomi Bennett. No designer clothes, no performance, no polished smile. Just tired eyes, steady posture, and real strength. She looked into the camera and said, "If anyone knows a dependable driver or operations helper, we need one immediately. Summer program starts Monday. Our van is unreliable. Our staff is stretched thin. And these kids deserve better than excuses." That was it. No drama. No begging. No self-pity. Just responsibility. Malik watched the clip 3 times. There was something in her voice he hadn't heard in a long time. Honesty. By noon, he made the wildest decision of his life. He left the luxury car at home, took off the watch, put on plain jeans, old boots, and a faded work jacket. Picked up an old truck from one of his warehouses, trimmed his beard, softened his image, buried the billionaire. When he looked in the mirror, he didn't look rich. He looked ordinary. And for the first time in years, that felt like freedom. When he reached the West End Arts Center, the first thing he heard was music. Not polished music, honest music. A trumpet missing the same note again and again. A piano with one broken key still fighting to be useful. A little girl somewhere inside trying to sing louder than her fear. Outside, a teenage boy was dragging cables across the steps. He looked up and said, "You here for the job? If Miss Naomi is still standing, that's already a miracle." Inside, Naomi was behind the front desk, one phone at her ear, another ringing beside her. Papers everywhere, stress in every movement. She looked up once. "You know how to drive a 12-passenger van?" "Yes." "Clean record?" "Yes." "You mind long hours?" "No." She let out a tired breath. "Good. Sit down. If you disappear in the next 5 minutes, I'll assume you're like everybody else." Malik sat and watched. A little girl came in crying because her violin case had cracked. Naomi knelt down and calmed her. A volunteer didn't show up. Naomi reorganized the whole afternoon without complaining. The printer jammed. She slapped it twice and kept moving. Then an older voice called from the back room, "Naomi?" And instantly her voice changed. "Coming, Mama." 10 minutes later, Naomi sat across from him with a clipboard. "Name?" He had practiced the lie all morning. "Kai Reed." "Experience?" "Driving, maintenance, coordination. Whatever needs doing." She nodded once. "Why here?" He paused, then gave the closest thing to truth he could manage. "I needed a place where the work means something." Naomi looked at him carefully, like she was used to people lying, and had gotten very good at listening past words. Finally, she said, "You can start today?" He stood and shook her hand. "I can start now." The first week humbled him, not because the work was too hard, because the work was real. In Malik's world, problems lived in emails and boardrooms. Here, problems had to be lifted, fixed, driven, cleaned, or carried. Nobody cared who he was. They cared if the van started, if the kids got fed, if the stage was ready, if the speakers worked before rehearsal. Kai drove children to workshops, carried folding chairs, fixed a leaking sink, loaded drums, swept floors after dark, and every single day, Naomi was there before him, and still there after him. Slowly, he learned the shape of her life. The older woman in the back room was her grandmother, Mama Evelyn, a retired choir director with silver hair, sharp eyes, and weak lungs. The boy outside was TJ, Naomi's younger brother. Bright, restless, funny, and dangerously close to the kind of trouble that changes lives. There was no rich investor secretly backing Naomi, no hidden safety net, no one coming to rescue her. It was just her, holding the whole place together through discipline, exhaustion, and pure will. One evening, a storm rolled over the city so fast it turned the sky black. Naomi came rushing out with a folder against her chest. "Kai, I need downtown in 20 minutes. If I miss this donor meeting, we lose the money." "Get in." Traffic was frozen. Naomi kept checking the clock. "We're not gonna make it." Kai scanned the roads, then turned off the main route. He cut through side streets, past a row of warehouses, slipped beneath an old rail bridge, and came out just blocks from the office. They made it with 3 minutes to spare. Naomi stared at him. "How did you know that route?" He killed the engine. Sometimes the long way is the only way. An hour later, she came back smiling with relief written all over her face. "We didn't get all the funding," she said, "but we got enough. Summer survives." And somehow, that tiny victory felt more real to Malik than every deal he had ever closed in a glass tower. A few nights later, Mama Evelyn's breathing turned bad. The inhaler was nearly empty. Naomi's voice cracked. For the first time, he saw panic get through her armor. Kai grabbed the keys and left immediately. On the way, he made one quiet call to an old contact. By the time he reached the pharmacy, the prescription had been cleared, paid for, and waiting. When he returned, Naomi looked at the bag, then at him. "How did you do that so fast?" He gave her a small shrug. "Looks like luck finally picked your side." Mama Evelyn took a deep breath, leaned back, and looked straight at him. "Baby, sometimes help comes wearing work boots." He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because every day he stayed there, the lie got heavier. Days became weeks. The center stopped feeling like an experiment. It started feeling like home. The kids loved him. TJ challenged him. Mama Evelyn watched him like she could already see through him. And Naomi trusted him more every day. That was the dangerous part. Because the more she trusted him, the more unforgivable the truth became. Then TJ disappeared. 1 hour. Then 2. The call came from the police station. He had been picked up with 2 other boys after a store window got smashed. Naomi went pale. Kai drove her there. TJ was angry, scared, and trying hard not to show either one. "I didn't do anything," he kept saying. Naomi believed him. But belief was not proof. Kai stepped outside, made a quiet call, and got nearby street footage pulled. The video showed another boy breaking the glass while TJ jumped back in shock. That was enough. TJ was released. Outside the station, Naomi stood still like her body had forgotten how to come down from fear. Then she whispered, "I'm tired. It feels like one more hit and everything falls apart." Kai looked at her. "You're not carrying tonight by yourself." She looked back at him. And something changed. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough. Then summer got hotter. The center's old air conditioning failed. One grant got delayed. The building note was late. And the books were a mess left behind by a former finance manager. Kai found Naomi alone in her office late one night, staring at a spreadsheet like it might swallow her whole. "You okay?" She laughed once. Tired, dry, broken around the edges. "No, the books are bad, the bank is nervous, and if they call the note, This place is gone." He went still. "Someone took money?" She looked at him. "Enough to hurt us. Enough to make us look weak. Enough to give the wrong people an opening." That night, Malik called Andre. "I need everything on West End Arts Center. Debt, grants, prior records, all of it." 2 days later, the report landed in his hands. A development firm had been circling the property for months, waiting. If the center defaulted, they could take the land cheap and replace it with luxury retail. Malik stared at the report in silence. Now this was bigger than him, bigger than romance, bigger than the lie. This was about protecting something sacred from people who only understood value when they could own it. Then came the press mixer, a small event for local donors and media. Naomi wore a dark green dress that made the room feel quieter when she entered it. Kai was handling setup near the side entrance when a silver luxury car rolled up. Simone stepped out. His blood turned cold. She looked him over and smiled. "Well," she said, "you really committed to the part." "Leave." "Atlanta is a small city, Malik. You didn't think this little costume would stay hidden forever, did you?" Then she saw Naomi walking toward them, and instantly, Simone understood exactly where to strike. "Hi," she said sweetly. "I'm Simone, an old friend of Malik Carter." Naming slowed. "I'm sorry, of who?" Simone glanced at Kai. "His." Naomi turned toward him. Not angry, not yet, just confused. "Kai?" Malik opened his mouth, but Simone kept going. "You really didn't know? That's embarrassing. Atlanta's favorite billionaire has been pretending to be your driver." Naomi looked at him like the floor had shifted under her feet. That hurt more than shouting would have. She led him into an empty room and closed the door. "Tell me the truth." And this time, he did. His real name, his money, why he came, why he stayed, why he lied. When he finished, Naomi's eyes were full, but her voice was steady. "You didn't test my heart, Malik. You took away my choice." And there it was, the truth he could not talk his way around. No defense, no excuse, no billionaire answer. She opened the door. "Finish tonight's setup, then leave your keys on my desk." He did. And when he drove home, the mansion felt emptier than ever. The next morning, Andre came with more papers. The development firm moved early. They're calling the note before the youth showcase. They want the default announced publicly. Malik stood. "Set up a community trust." Andre frowned. "You're buying the building?" "No." Malik looked him dead in the eye. "I'm making sure nobody else can." Saturday night, the youth showcase packed the building. Parents filled the seats. Children waited backstage in pressed clothes and nervous smiles. Mama Evelyn sat in the front row, wrapped in a gold shawl like royalty. TJ tuned his guitar. Naomi stood tall, dressed in professionalism and running on almost no sleep. Then, 30 minutes before curtain, 2 lawyers walked in with legal folders. They handed Naomi the default notice. "Possession proceedings may begin after the event." Her hands shook. TJ saw her face and rushed over. The room began to murmur. Fear moves fast in places built on sacrifice. And then the doors opened. Malik Carter walked in. No work jacket, no disguise, no hiding. Just Malik. Dark suit, steady face, absolute clarity. He crossed the room and stopped in front of the lawyers. "I'm Malik Carter," he said. "And before anybody embarrasses themselves tonight, Let's get the facts straight. He handed them a file. Andre stood behind him. So did a forensic accountant. So did a city investigator. Malik turned so the room could hear him. This center did not fail by accident. It was weakened, pressured, targeted. Someone bet this community wouldn't have the resources to fight back. The room went completely still. He looked at Naomi, then back at the crowd. They made one mistake. He let the silence hold. They confused kindness with weakness. The lawyers opened the file. Their faces changed. Malik took one step closer. This building is not a business opportunity. It is memory. It is music. It is a future. And if your clients want to explain in public why they tried to steal that future, they're welcome to stay. They didn't stay. They left. Fast, quiet, embarrassed. But Malik wasn't done. Andre handed Naomi another folder. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The building had been placed into an irrevocable community trust. Protected, funded, maintained, owned by the people it served. Not by Malik. Not by donors. Not by developers. By the community. Naomi looked up at him in stunned silence. Malik spoke softly now. I'm not doing this to buy forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for sale. I lied to you. I took away your choice. I cannot undo that. But I can stop holding power where it never belonged. Then he looked directly at her. Love that needs leverage isn't love. For a second, nobody moved. Then Mama Evelyn stood and said, "That was beautiful. Now let these babies perform." The room broke into laughter. The tension cracked. The show began. And for the next hour, that old building felt sacred. Kids sang like the walls themselves were listening. TJ played guitar like he was turning every bad road he almost took into music. A spoken word performance brought half the room to tears. And when it was over, the applause didn't sound like celebration. It sounded like survival. Later, after the crowd had thinned and the folding chairs were being stacked, Naomi found Malik on stage, still helping clean up in his expensive suit. She stopped in front of him. Most billionaires don't stay for cleanup. He looked up. Most billionaires never met your grandmother. That almost made her smile. Almost. Her eyes filled first. I'm still angry. I know. I trusted you. I know. The man I cared about wasn't the whole truth. Malik held her gaze. The man you cared about was real. He just wasn't complete. She went quiet. Then she said, I don't want the penthouse version of you. Good, he said. I don't want to hide there anymore. I want the man who took my grandmother to the pharmacy, the man who stood beside TJ, the man who swept floors, the man who listened. His voice softened. He's still here. Naomi stepped closer. Then stay here, she said. This time without the lie. He nodded once. This time, only truth. And then she kissed him. Not because he was rich, not because he saved the building, but because for the first time, there was nothing standing between them except honesty. 3 months later, the media tried to turn the story into a glamorous headline about a billionaire rescuing a neighborhood arts center. But that was never the truth. Malik did not rescue Naomi. Naomi had been fighting long before he arrived. What changed was that Malik finally stopped hiding long enough to stand beside her the right way. The trust held. The roof was repaired. The rehearsal rooms were restored. The mural outside was repainted. TJ started mentoring younger boys in the guitar room. Mama Evelyn returned to terrorizing weak singers with holy joy. And Malik? Some days he came in a suit. Some days in work clothes. Sometimes he handled donors. Sometimes he carried folding chairs. Sometimes he sat quietly in the back and listened to children turn pain into art. A year later, the center held a block party. Music spilled into the street. Smoke rose from the grills. Kids painted banners across folding tables. Neighbors laughed like they had survived something together. Naomi stood on the front steps with a microphone. "A year ago," she said, "people thought this place was too old, too small, too local, too underfunded, too easy to erase. They were wrong, because this building was never just brick and wood. It was voice. It was memory. It was a place where children learned their lives had weight." The crowd exploded. Then Naomi looked toward Malik, standing off to the side, trying and failing not to be noticed. She smiled. "Some people show up with money. Some show up with charm. But the rare ones tell the truth, do the work, and stay after the applause." Then she held out her hand. "Malik, come here." TJ shouted from the crowd, "Man, if you don't get up those steps!" Everybody laughed. Malik walked up beside her. Naomi took his hand. And then she said the line the whole neighborhood would remember. "I didn't fall in love with the man who could buy the block. I fell in love with the man who stayed to help clean it." The street exploded in cheers. And in that moment, Malik understood something all his wealth had never taught him. Love is not proven by the grand gesture. It is proven by what remains after the gesture. By staying. By returning. By showing up on ordinary mornings. By being trustworthy when nobody is clapping. And if you ever pass through West End on a warm Atlanta evening, you might see a well-dressed man carrying folding chairs beside a beautiful woman with tired, radiant eyes. If you didn't know who they were, you'd probably think they were just two people closing up after a long day. And the truth is, that's exactly what they were.